Hey, 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 how y'all doing? Welcome to another episode. We're talking about WTF Talks dot work. So we're going to spend a couple minutes here today together talking about work. And today, Hannah, what are we talking about?
Today we are talking about the beautiful weather outside, the sun shining, the water looking so tempting, and how the heck do you keep on working through the summer months? Just the pull of what summer can do to some people and how you continue to kind of keep pushing through those three eyes. How do you be intense about it? How do you be intentional about it? How do you have integrity through it when all you want to do is be in the sun?
Sure, sure. And I think that that's a particularly poignant thing as, some companies are now back to work in the office full time, and some companies are still persisting in the work from home environment. And what's that like? How's that different for each? And is it really different for each, or is it the same?
Well,
So
what do you think? What do you what I feel like it's quite different. What do you think is the thing that's not different?
I think what you end up with in an office setting is um, more togetherness and more visiting. And like, I think that even in the summers, it's a challenge in an office environment to not get caught up with a little longer smoke break or a little longer lunch break or there's often company barbecues and stuff this time of year. And like, how do you work through all of that and make sure you're giving your fullness to your job every day?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense and is incredibly challenging. Where do you think the hardest part is for you? Like in the summer months when you're in this position, what's the most challenging thing for you about it?
Um, I think for me, um, I'm a playboy, but not with people. Just like I want to go out and play. Fun I'm a fun guy. Call me a mushroom or whatever you want. I like to have fun, and so I'm a bit of a. I've been told before I'm a play baby, not a playboy. I think that's the difference. Um, but really, I get excited about just kind of getting out and having some fun, and so when the weather is more um, inclusive of getting those opportunities, that's a big deal for me.
When the mud when the weather is more inclusive,
Inclusive
I
is
struggle.
a pretty bad word. Okay,
No,
so do a better
no,
sentence for me.
I'm completely in line with you. I think that that's a great word to describe it. Like it's the weather is if you
Inviting.
yeah, if you exaggerate the use of the word a little bit, inviting is a much better definition. But like, man, oh man, she's calling you out to her, and I think that Summer is a woman, in my personal opinion. But anyways, I always assign something to it, some gender, and it's funny because I was just having a conversation with some French people the other day about like how the heck does one assign a gender to an object? Because of the conjugation and everything. I'm like, how do you learn this? But evidently, self-reflection, I do it too. Um, but yes, the summer, the weather is very inviting, is very inclusive. I think that that's probably my biggest thing as well. That when specifically because I still have so many friends and peers who are not working the normal 9 to 5 lifestyle. There's so many different things that are going on around me all the time. And I'm like, oh, it looks really fun. Like, even
Right?
just mom yesterday was coming back in, and you guys are in town for a very short period of time before you head back in the next little while to Canada. And she was like, I'd love to see you. And I was like, I want to see you too. And I was like, maybe I could work a little earlier, leave a little earlier. We could do something on Wednesday. Like it's challenging. There's so many things that call for your attention, and it's hard to stay back. So what's the best thing that you have found to mitigating that? Is that an appropriate word for that? Yeah, just to kind of like keeping that from moving forward. How do you help yourself?
Yeah, I think that nailing your feet to the floor, like just In the end, it comes to integrity. Integrity is what keeps you at your desk. It's I have a commitment to this organization to do these things. And whether you're the owner or you're a first week employee, um, the effort that you give is related to your integrity and your commitments and following through with them. And so, um, yeah, I like to play, but I have work to get done.
Okay, now what about flip the script, different worlds? I mean, not really flip the script. It's just a different perspective to hold it from. But as the employer, long weekend comes rolling around. You're, as you have defined, a play person. You love to be out and have fun. In a work environment where you're in the office with everyone or an environment where you're not, how are you engaging everybody, doing that fun like long weekend lunch, but then also getting back to work, or are you not? Or what, like how has that kind of changed pre and post world COVID, I imagine are very different as well.
Yeah, well, so like we're recording this on June 30th, the day before Canada Day, where most of our clients and most of our employees exist in Canada. So so what happens is you, I want to cut at a half day. I want to let people go early, but the business has demands. We have clients that are looking for results. And so we stay in the seat to fulfill the client's needs, not my needs. Um, and that's always been kind of the driving factor in our business is what are the client's demands? Like, so we often take our feel for how to respond to things based on what the general vibe is amongst our clients. So when we're asking, our Canada is different because it's a specific day of the year and it doesn't move. Um, but on other days that float a little bit more, like around the Christmas holidays, there's some flexibility. And so people work different shifts or whatever. Um, but yeah, in particular, we work based on the client's needs and demands.
Sure. Sure. That makes sense. So, as much as you want to play or have fun, regardless of the day or the situation, the clients come first, and work is done as is required. Does that leave room for those longer water cooler talks, in your opinion, or longer smoke breaks for people around anything like this, or is it a little bit more cut and dry, or how would you play that out?
Definitely when we were in person, we would have a more extended uh, time of fun or lunch or whatever, or you'd be more inclined to let everybody go early. But now that we work from home, we're less inclined to do that.
Yeah.
Uh,
I feel like even when we do have like extended time together virtually, people are more excited to get the work done that they need to get done so they can continue on with their own lives and not as inclined to be happy-go-lucky, chatty, hanging out with everybody. Like I feel like most of our team, at least from my perspective, we're counting efforts, we're counting work, we're counting like what needs to actually get done, and we're not necessarily looking at the clock for which time you're in and you're out and how that all kind of plays out.
yeah, and it's been a challenge to kind of move the mindset that way, um, and to get people to align themselves with the outcomes that the business needs in order to afford everyone around it. And so, um, some people are like, well, I'm a night person. I will stay up at night. I'm like, okay, you could give it a little extra effort at night, but our business really runs from 8 to 5. And so if you're doing it outside the 8 to 5, we can make some tolerance and make some room, I'm not rigid, but we want to know, we want to understand how that's coming back or whatnot. Had somebody ask me, like last week, had somebody who's been with us for less than a month ask for a half day off. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Take the time. Just, take it off your timesheet. And they're like, oh, can't I make it up? And I'm like, well, I'm sure that you could, but I don't want to put that burden on you. Just go ahead and take it off your timesheet. Um, and I think that things like that make it simpler and more concise. Um, and I really, really need clarity, and so that we all have expectations that are being met on both sides.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the work that can be done outside of those hours, you allow for the space to do so. But when you need other people, and what we do is a people business. And so when you need the opportunity to connect with other people, you need to be connecting with them when they are connectable. And so that is kind of what will drive the
Right.
hours at which
And
is
so if
best for a human to be working.
if you need an hour or a couple hours off to run to a dentist appointment or whatever, like I don't care about any of that. I really don't. That all comes out in the wash. But if you're going to take a 4 hour step away from your desk, not be really reachable, then I just think that we should account for it and make an allowance. Um, and that's particularly somebody who's new. If they've been here for 5 years, I'd answer that question differently, probably.
Most of those people don't have timesheets anymore. So that comes out a little different. Hourly and salary also is a whole other ball game. Or would you say that it's quite similar?
I think it's similar. I think I create the same,
But in
you know,
regards to
the manufacturing environment, that would be very different. In our environment, if I'm paying them hourly or I'm paying them salary, I don't, like I'm paying them the same thing pretty much every week. We don't mince it over an hour or whatever. Uh,
right, I
Even some
meant
co-op students we pay them like a set number of hours a week every week. It's not, it's an hourly role, but it's paid like a salary, I think.
yes, I just meant in reference to how it all comes out in the wash. Because the salary person's not submitting hours
No,
to be paid out. So they can't just completely take it out of their timesheet. That was all I meant. Like it's different in the way that it has to work itself out. But
but we do track half day attendance. So if somebody's booking off for a half day, we'll take a half vacation day or whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, as it relates specifically to summer, I think that it's like, you know, um, there's kids around more. Um, there's all sorts of additional distractions. And how do you manage those distractions, and how do you um, how do you work with your employees to ensure um, that you are giving them enough grace to live their life while still asking them to meet their agreed upon expectations?
So why don't you define for people who have never heard the term before out in the wash? Like, what does that mean? We've been using that since before I can remember, but definitely not a term that most people will have.
Yeah, sure. So for me, we had some really good friends, and we just got tired of calculating and tabulating every time we did a good thing for the other person. Sometimes as you're starting a relationship with somebody, you're like, there's a lot of tit for tat. I take you guys to dinner, you take us to dinner. It goes back and forth, splitting checks all the time. And yeah, with this family, we knew within less than a year that we were going to do life together for decades, not days or months. And so we just they came up with or they shared the concept with us. It'll all work out in the wash. Like, don't, we got this. It'll all work out in
Yeah.
the wash. You guys take care of us. We'll take care of you. It's all good. And we've lived our lives that way for 20 some years.
So but it really has worked out that way. Like just last week we were on the phone with their son, Matt, who's gonna look at some AI stuff with us, and he was like, "Don't worry, it's all gonna come out in the wash. Like I'll do the proposal for you, like we'll figure it out." And his sister, Mackenzie, is my publisher for the books, and like the Tigwells are keeping our Sea-Doo there. You FaceTime them like two hours after that original conversation, and they were like walking around the Sea-Doo with someone. Like it's something that started so long ago and in such a small place, but that has grown to be something really beautiful that I don't think a lot of people have experienced with others around them. Just like that mutual trust and respect that it will kind of just continue coming back because you'll
Right.
pour whatever you can wherever you can into one another as seems so fit.
Right. And I would say that Mom and I only have really one other couple that we feel that way about, John and Jeannie. And like I I do anything. John Cross calls me, I'll go bury a body for him. I got no problems. Now John's so nice, he'd never need that service. I, on the other hand, um, so but no, like John and
This
Jeannie,
is public.
I know I get that. And people understand my hyperbole. Um, So yeah, I I would do anything for John that he asked me to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as people know, Dave's always got a guy, and if you need a guy, he might be the guy. So, anyways.
John is yeah. John and Rob are like my two go-to guys. I just like there is increasingly there is no one else on the list. And it's not that I don't have other guys. It's that in my personal life, they have all the trust.
So how do you choose, and then we can wrap it here because we're now so far from our summer topic. Um, but how do you choose who to let it come out in the wash with and who to not? Because I was raised that way, in my mind, life will come out in the wash. And post this conversation, I might need to reflect on some of the people that I've been putting some stuff through the washing machine for, because in a lot of ways, I'm like just like it's whatever. Like you just kind of want to continue pushing it, and there is such a desire to just, at least in my world, get information into people's hands who need it. And so I'm like, it will just come out in the wash. But also, people want to run a business, people need to make money. And so, like, personally, it runs so differently. And then professionally, and how do you kind of decipher between the two and when you let something do that versus when you're like, no, 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 we're starting? Is it within that kind of first year analysis that you were talking about, or do you have a different kind of mental process that you run it through?
I think that it's so much is circumstantial in that, but in the end, it's that you see it's reciprocated. There always has to be a fair exchange in any relationship, any client relationship. There has to be a fair exchange. So when I'm dealing with clients that are always asking me to do them a solid, or like give me a discount here, and do something. One, most people know I don't give discounts. Um, and
Dave's
so
friend and family discounts like an additional 10%, so don't be
that's right.
asking for it.
Yeah. So that's why John and Rob have never ordered anything from me. But the reality is that I really believe that a relationship is reciprocal, and where I do someone a kind deed, I will see it responded, and I may put two in the bank with them, or even three, but eventually I'm keeping score. It's like it's
Mm,
not unaware what I've done before.
mm.
Nobody forgets all of those things. You shouldn't necessarily stack them up and go, okay, now I have a chit, I'm coming to cash it in. I think that's crap. Okay. If somebody comes to you and say, oh, I need to cash in a chit, I'm like, I don't particularly care for that. But
Sure.
if they've got a favor they want back, I try to do favors for people and have people do favors for me a lot, because I think that that's indicative of the relationships. So in business, I have probably a tighter rope on it than I do in my personal life. In my personal life, Um, I give and I give and I give and I give and I give, and um, somebody around me tells me to stop giving. Typically, my daughter, my wife, my sons. You're like,
Yes.
Dad, you're not getting the return on investment that you're expending in this area. You need to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
And if you want to give stuff away, then give stuff away. But if you're expecting there to be some kind of reciprocation, it's probably not going to happen at this point.
Interesting. So kind of just like keeping tally on it yourself internally, but then also having people around you who can just help keep you accountable for the things
Right?
and are aware of what you're doing. I like that.
Yeah. Well, generosity is it's a gift to it's a real treasure to have, generosity of spirit. And some people, I'm sure, if they listen this far, would say, well, is it generosity of spirit if you're actually keeping track? It's like, well, my brain can't not. So I don't know about your brain. Maybe you can give and forget. I can't.
Well, but
It's it works.
there's a very, very big difference between giving generously to somebody who you know desperately needs it and having a mutual reciprocation type of relationship. And if you're expecting a mutual reciprocation and you're not receiving anything, the only thing you're doing is protecting yourself. If you're giving to someone because they are in need and you are just giving to them because you have a generous spirit, that's a completely different conversation. And I don't think something that we've really actually talked about because that's not coming out in the wash. That's just giving, which is separate. And you do a lot of that. But there's sorry, does that is that a mind
I think I
blowing?
disagree with you. I think that
Really?
one flows from the other. Is you don't find people letting it all work out in the wash if they don't have a generous spirit to start with.
Agreed for sure. But I would still think that they are separate things. What you
Okay.
do to give generously to someone
Yeah,
who is on
that's
the side of the road, you're not expecting anything back from them. You're never
yeah, no, absolutely
anticipating
not.
that. A charitable
And
organization, you're not expecting a return necessarily. Like that's not why you're doing those things. Well, it shouldn't be. I mean, like tax receipts are not the reason to give to an organization. What the organization is doing is what you give in the reason. Like
right,
you know what I
you
mean?
give for impact, and if you're not
Right.
seeing, so the return on investment with a charitable gift is that you see a return on the investment in what the charity is doing with the money. I just said to somebody this morning, uh,
Yes.
you don't give money to a black hole. If you don't see the stories coming out the other side that reflect the reason for the ask and then your related generosity to the ask, then you stop giving pretty quickly,
That is very true.
right?
That is very true. There's so much gray area there, but I stand firm on thinking that they're a little bit separate with a massive, massive chunk of gray in the middle.
Okay,
But
okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. It is a thing to be generous and let it go without what you don't want is an expectation of them treating you special because you gave them a gift or like it's not to your benefit that there's a return. It's to the community or to the directions and mission of the agency that you want to see the return. And
Mhm.
so, we've been involved in a lot of church things, um, and I'm happy to give to a church where I see the people being well cared for, and but until I see that, I've said to people a lot of times, um, people leave your church, um, they come to your church first, and the money comes later and then they leave your church, their money leaves first. So you
Mm,
don't have anybody who's like still sitting around at the volunteer appreciation night who's got one foot out the door, but they're still giving like a lot. That's probably not the case
sure.
in in general
Yeah.
circumstance.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always an outlander in other
Right.
stuff. But well, I think that that's a fun spot to leave it. We could tease the people by telling them we've got some fun B2G consulting stuff coming up, but maybe next week we'll talk a little bit about that. Kind of coming
Yeah.
out some of the stuff you've got going on down there, and you're starting up in the next couple weeks, and myself as well. But for next week,
We'll talk to you then, guys. Have a great day. Thanks so much for joining us.
bye everybody.